Hi everyone, it's Brittany and I am back today with a necklace tutorial. We're going to be using some items I haven't ever used before, and we're going to start off with some SilverSilk capture chain. I have it in 3 different colors. I'm thinking I'm going to use today the antique white, but I have golden and storm. Storm is a really dark blue with a gunmetal ball chain on the inside. If you haven't used capture chain before, like me, I wasn't 100% sure what it was, but it is an actual ball chain captured inside of knitted wire, and it is amazing. So I'm going to be using the antique white today. I'm going to use all 3 feet. So I'll set that to the side right here. There are also some findings, custom findings with SilverSilk capture chain. So today I'm going to go with gold. I have silver here, but then there are 2 different gold types that I have. One holds 2 strands and one holds 1 strand. I'm going to use the 1 strand today. Put that to the side. And then I am also going to be using some Beadalon wire in 18 gauge. So I have it in the gold color, the German style wire. I also have these Jesse James bead strands featuring Preciosa pearls and crystals. They're really sparkly. I think today I want to use this smoky, it's almost a smoky green color, but it's really probably just a smoky quartz color. But I want to use the metal that is on the green, like peridot color strand. So these are these are Jesse James bead strands featuring Preciosa and Jesse James beads metal. So I will be using this color beads, but the gold metal today. I'm also going to be using some pliers, some snips, and I believe to close the end caps, you'll want to use some nylon jaw pliers. So I have these from Beadalon. I'm also going to be using a bail making pliers today. So we'll get started. We have a lot to do. So I'm going to set aside my capture chain for a little bit because I won't be using that right away. I am going to set aside my pink strand because I'm not using that right away either. I'm going to get out a couple bead trays so I can keep my beads separated. So I'm going to open my first strand, which is the green strand, and I'm going to just separate the pearls and crystals from the metal. Okay, so now that I have those separated, I moved the green beads and the silver beads out of the way, and I am left with my smoky colors and the gold. I'm actually going to, I love the way that they strung these, so I'm going to keep this pattern. I'm just going to put this out of the up here so I can make sure that I still have the same pattern using the crystals and the metal. So today I'll be using some 19 strand wire from Beadalon in the gold color, and I'm just going to restring this. So I'll just follow the pattern that I see here. I love how Jesse James beads kind of takes the guesswork out. If you just go, they have such pretty strands. You can kind of just keep their patterns and you'll have a nice piece of jewelry. Okay, now that we have our gold and smoky beads strung, I'm going to set that aside for just a moment. I'm going to grab my 20 gauge wire and I'm going to cut off one length. We're going to do this twice. For the first one, it's going to be a little bit longer than the second. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Then I'm going to grab my bail making pliers. So I have these 2 size mandrels on these Beadalon bail making pliers, and I am going to put the end of my wire between the 2 just so it's just sticking out. Okay, and I'm actually going to go with the natural curve of the wire, and I want to go around the larger mandrel, and I'm going to just kind of hold that in there, and I am going to start going around. So I'll just kind of close that in, wrap, move it around, wrap again, and then we'll just keep going until I get as many wraps as I want. And again, I just would love for this to be a little bit closer, so I might end up snipping that part off since we got to a rough start, but the rest of the loops should be pretty good. I want this to be like a good length of a coil. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to cut this one off right here. And I'll cut him right there. So we have one little length of coil. Okay, this is actually shorter than I wanted it to be. So I'm going to just do the exact same thing with a longer piece of wire, because we need 2. There we go. These also make really great beads. If you're low on metal beads or something like that, you can just make a couple coils and stick them on your bracelet or your necklace. But that's not what we're doing today. So I'm going to go ahead and create another coil, just a little bit longer this time. And this time I'm wrapping it right up next to the first coil. And you want to grab those lightly because you don't want to damage your wire. Okay. Okay, so as we can see, this one's much longer. It's got 3 or 4 extra coils. I'm going to go one more coil and then I'll cut it. There you go. And I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to bring it back around so that the edges are in the same place. Okay. So I'll go ahead and snip this. There we go. So we have our 2 coils, and this one's just a little, there we go. Just want to tuck that guy in a little bit. There we go. And then now we're going to go back and grab our strand. Okay, on this strand I am going to put on our smaller coil, and I'm going to slide it down. Make sure it doesn't come off the other end. If you need to put a bead stopper on, that's fine. I'm just going to slide it down so it comes over our beads. Okay, now I'm going to put on a crimp bead, and I am going to take this end of the tail that has the crimp bead, and I'm going to slide it through at least one of the beads on the other side. Could do more. And then I am going to do the exact same thing with my other tail. I'm going to put it back through the crimp bead, and then put it through at least one of the beads on this side. I'm just going to do one, and then we'll pull both so we have a circle. Okay, now I'm going to take my crimping pliers, and I'm just going to do a flat crimp here. I want to make sure that we have a circle. Let's do a flat crimp, and then I'm going to grab a crimp cover, and I'm going to cover that, and you won't be able to tell that it's there because it fits in with our gold theme. There we go, and just work that closed. And now I'm going to take my snips, and I am going to cut our excess wire there on both sides. There we go. And we have ourselves a beautiful pendant with a veil. Okay, isn't that gorgeous? Oh, it's so shiny and shimmery and pretty. Okay, so we have our pendant. I'm going to bring back my capture chain. Okay, and I'm just going to choose one side of the capture chain, and I'm going to slide it through our bail. And we're just going to move it to the middle of the necklace. Okay. It's beautiful. Okay, and then I'm going to take my other coil, and I am going to put together my two ends of my chain, and I'm going to slide both ends through the coil. The coil is going to come down here, and it's going to hold our necklace together like that. Oh my gosh, isn't that just really simple but elegant? And you could do this with any colors. This cream looks really, or this antique white looks so pretty with that smoky gray olive green color and the gold. It really stands out and it pops. Okay, and then I am going to grab my end caps. And there are nice instructions. So place the knitted wire end into the end cap. Use nylon jaw pliers to press together. So I'll put those there. Okay, so we're going to come to the end of our capture chain. You can see, hopefully you can see where the ball chain ends. We're going to come up a little bit further than that, squish it a little bit together there, and I'm going to make a cut. Because we want some of the ball to be in the end cap. So I'm going to squish that, and that's a technical term that I love to use, is squish. I'm going to squish the first ball in there, and then I'm going to grab my nylon jaw pliers, and we're going to apply pressure and clamp down. Make sure we get it in there tight. We can trim this up once this is secure. There we go. And that puppy's not coming out of there. So what I can do over here is just kind of trim that up if you want. I think it'll be fine. I just don't want to do it too much and then it comes undone. But I think it'll be fine. Yep, he is in there. He is not going anywhere. And then we have our necklace. I'm going to grab a clasp and show you it finished. I have these nice different clasps from Beadalon. There are two different kinds. We have our spring side and our lobster clasp. I'm just going to grab a lobster clasp and a couple jump rings. can use whatever clasp you like. If you have toggles, magnetic, whatever works for you. So then I'm going to grab my pliers. And twist that closed. Put a jump ring on the other side. And our necklace is finished, and it is stunning. I love this necklace. Okay, so let me back out a little bit and show you this necklace. Okay, though it's a simple necklace, it packs a lot of punch with all of this metal and these stunning crystals on here. And I think that bringing the gold up into the SilverSilk capture chain really draws your eye up. And it's a long necklace. It's 36 inches long, so each side is 18 inches. So it's so pretty. It'll hang really well, and you can do this in multiple colors with all these different new Preciosa featured strands by Jesse James Beads. So okay, so now that we've made this awesome necklace, I am going to switch up the gears a little bit, and we're going to make a bracelet. It's not going to match this because we're going to switch over to silver findings. I'm going to put our necklace to the side. I am going to bring back the beads that were from the last strand, the metal, and I am going to bring back some of the green beads. I'm also going to use the Storm color. It's the really dark blue with gunmetal ball chain. We're going to use the silver end caps, and I'm also going to use some of the Jesse James Beads featuring Dakota Stones strands, and this one I believe was Dreamy Blue Haze. So I'm not going to use both of these strands. I'm going to see what we can come up with. The good thing about Jesse James Beads is you really can just go from this strand into your bracelet. You don't really have to design it because they've already done that for you with these gorgeous gemstone strands. So I'm going to put aside that end bead right there. What I'm going to do is one strand of beads, and then we're going to do one strand of capture chain and make a 2-strand bracelet. You could do 3 if you want. I have 2 strands of these here, but I'm going to make sure that I have some beading wire. And again, this is Beadalon. This is silver 19-strand wire. And I'm just going to plan out my strand. It's going to need to be a little bit longer than this. We will have, I'm just going to get a generic toggle clasp, and that'll connect to the ends of our capture chain. So I'm going to open up this strand. I'm going to try and just use one. We'll see how that works out. I really like the pattern that we have going on here. Of course, I just cut it apart, but I want to add in some of these matte Preciosa crystals and possibly some of the faceted rounds. I don't know if I'll need all of those. And then I want to work in some of these crystal rondelles. Okay. So I really liked the pattern that we had going on the strand featuring Dakota stones. So I'm going to try and stick as closely as possible to that, but we're just gonna, like I said, add in some of these Preciosa crystals. So I'm just gonna grab my wire and I am going to start from this end. So we have a English cut or star cut bead. Put that on. I think this is a perfect opportunity to start working in that green right next to that. And then here I'm going to put one of our crystal rondelles, then one of the matte Preciosa crystals, and then the rondelle that was already included in that strand. We have a little mini crystal, gemstone, and we're just going to keep going until it's the right length. And of course, I always fit mine to my wrist, but if you have a bigger or a smaller wrist, just go ahead and measure it to your size. And I'm just slipping that Preciosa crystal in after the star cut beads. It's just a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to put another one of these. I realize I didn't put a crystal rondelle there. That's totally fine. I'll just make up for it later in the bracelet. I love these. I love gemstones. They're so much fun to work with. Okay, so then we go for our English cut bead, then our spacer, our matte bead, and then we'll move on to the next bead. And even though the pattern is relatively the same, we're just adding in that pop of green. It looks amazing. Brightens it up a little bit. So okay. Star cut bead, and then our crystal spacer, and we're going back to the clear crystal. And then we're at the end with our last rondelle. I'm going to put a clamp on this end. And then I'm going to come back to this end, cut off some length, take off our star cut bead, put on another crystal rondelle spacer, put our star cut bead back on, and there is one part of our bracelet. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, that was really easy. All I did was add in 5 beads and some spacers, but it took a fantastic strand up a level by putting a pop of color in there. So I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to put another clamp on the other side so we don't lose our pattern. And then just for a little bit of added length, I am going to add 2 daisy spacers on each side of the bracelet. I know it's not going to add that much, but it will help. And then I am going to set that aside. There we go. Next, I'm going to take my SilverSilk capture chain. Then I'm going to measure how much I'll need around my wrist. Okay, so I cut a length a little bit longer than my wrist. I am going to, and it's okay if it sticks out a little bit on that end, I am going to take one of my end caps and put at least as much of that as I can squeeze in there, but preferably around one of the pieces of the ball chain. And then we will squeeze this closed like we did on the other side. You can get it started with your fingers if you think, because it can get a little slippery, but we really want to finish it off with the nylon jaw because that gets a tight grab on the chain there. Okay, so we have half of that strand finished, and you can trim this up if you'd like. I'm not going to worry about it for the moment. And then I am going to measure on my wrist. You can measure however you'd like, but I do better measuring on my actual wrist. And I'm going to end up cutting mine right about there because I want to make enough room for my toggle clasp and any jump rings that need to connect, plus our end cap, our second end cap. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this because you can use this in an earring or a separate project. I'm going to go ahead and smoosh these into the other end cap. And if it's not open wide enough, if somehow it got closed in packaging and shipping, or if you closed it prematurely, I just grab my crimping pliers, stick them in there, and just open a little bit, like kind of like a Jaws of Life. So we'll go ahead and smoosh that in there. Okay, it's not going anywhere. Like I said, we can trim that up later. And so we have our first strand on our bracelet, and I just love how much detail is in that wire wrapping. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and grab, I want both of these to go onto a jump ring at each end, and then that jump ring will connect to our toggle clasp or whatever clasp you'd like to use. I'm partial to toggle clasps because it's easier to do it with one hand, but so are magnetic clasps. Okay, so I have these findings from Beadalon. I am just going to grab two of the bigger jump rings. I'm also going to grab the two crimp beads. Okay. I don't think there are crimp covers in this one. I do have some silver crimp covers if I want to use those later. I'm going to go ahead and grab my toggle. I just grabbed a generic toggle out of my stash. And I am going to open up my jump ring, and I'm going to put on my toggle and my SilverSilk at the same time. And then what we'll do is we will crimp the second strand right on to our jump ring. Okay, we want to make sure that's closed, lined up, no gap. Perfect. We'll do the same for the other end. Okay, And then I'm just going to grab one end. It doesn't matter which end. Grab a crimped bead or tube, whichever you prefer. Put this through our jump ring. If you wanted to, you could even hook it onto your end cap of your capture chain, but it's up to you. I'm going to put that back down through a few beads. Gives me some good tension to pull. Okay, and I'm just going to flat crimp like we did earlier. It's easier, nobody's going to see it, and it's just as sturdy. With these smaller crimp beads, it's totally fine. As long as your wire isn't crossed. I want to make sure it's not on top of each other, that it's just laying next to each other. There we go. Squeeze a couple times, and then you can cover that with a crimp cover. I am going to do the other side now. Okay, so I know I've said this several times. I say it every time I do a stranding project. We want to make sure our strand is loosey-goosey and not tight when we're crimping, because if it's in a straight line, it's never going to drape around your wrist very well. And I actually should have, before I did this, checked to see if these are close to the same length, and I think they actually are very close in length. This one might be a little bit longer, but that's totally okay. It's gonna look great on our wrist. Okay, so we're bent and it's totally fine. We can come in here and just flat crimp our little crimp tube. Oh, it helps if you go back through the crimp tube. Like to keep the mistakes in, because we all make them. All right, so we'll come back out. Go around our jump ring, come back through the crimp bead, there we go. Pull him through a few beads here. There we go, get that lined up. Make sure there's no excess room in between any of these beads. Measure twice, cut once. And we'll go ahead and flat crimp our crimp bead. If we can get next to him. There he is. There we go. And then I will find my snippers and just cut off our extra wire. Just make sure you only cut the extra wire, not the main wire. Okay. And here is, oh, and you could keep the bracelet just separate like this, or you could hold both ends and twist for a really cute look. In that case, you'd probably want the SilverSilk to be or the capture chain to be a little bit longer than your beaded string, so it would look like it was supposed to be wrapped around the other side. I want this to be two separate strands in my bracelet, but that's just an idea for you if you wanted to make your SilverSilk capture chain wind around your other strand. Here is my multi-strand bracelet, my 2-strand bracelet. It's so pretty. This chain, if you're walking around, gets some light to it, gets some sparkle, and it's just such a pretty bracelet. I tried it on. It looks great. I love it. So you can do as many of these strands as you want. And like I said, if you do this one a little bit longer, it's going to look really great wrapped around your other strand. And then, like I said earlier, we can just trim up these edges. It'll look really nice. Go. The other one just had a teeny bit poking out. Just want to be super careful when you're doing that you're not going down the whole bracelet. There you go. So here is our double strand bracelet combined. Sorry, with all the mess. I always get so messy when I make stuff. But messy mind means a creative mind, right? Or messy table means creative mind. And then here is our beautiful necklace. Here we go. I'll back out so you can see both of them. Okay, so here is our necklace. It's just so pretty and easy, and it's lightweight. So we have the summer months coming up where I live in Arizona. It's going to be super hot, and this will go with just about anything. And then we have our really sweet bracelet, double strand. Here we go. I want to thank you so much for watching me today, and thanks to Jessie James Beads to having me back. I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and hopefully I'll see you in our next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.